if the government prints their own money, why do they borrow? And he gets so perplexed by
Mm.
that, as if he doesn't even understand certain concepts.
But
Is that something you expected?
but but I think it's so good that you guys challenge these economists because if you think about it, MMT isn't even that radical. You're just it's an empirical observation. You're simply
Mm,
saying what happens in real life, and they
mm,
call you these ultra left
mm,
crackpots theorists. It's not even really a theory, is it? You're just literally observing what's happening, and because you're telling people about it, you're suddenly these radicals who are trying to take down their system, and it's just to me, it's quite absurd. And
I know,
yeah,
it's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating. I was always shocked by, yeah, the extreme reaction. I thought, oh, okay, economists should say, oh yeah, maybe we missed this and we should rewrite our textbooks now, or, let's integrate this into our field. But no, like the resistance is very strong, right? And that I think that comes down to just humans, but also who knows, maybe the field of economics seems to be extremely rigid in that way, right? And extremely immune to questioning, I think, on that level, and not wanting to change any of their Econ 101 core, right? They
mm,
say, if you start questioning those really fundamental assumptions too, then it's almost a house of cards, right? If you're plucking out the foundations, what about all the rest of this that's built
mm.
on top of it? They don't want to lose the whole project, I think. So they're invested, right? And they're invested personally. If you've devoted decades of your life to this and taught it, and you write the textbooks and you advise the presidents, it's very hard to go back and change and say, oh, maybe I got, a few kind of key important things wrong here, not just some little things, right? So it's hard to go back and admit that, I think, just on a human level. But yeah, like in terms of what I was expecting from these interviews, yeah, I really didn't know. So it's like, I've got to ask these questions, or I didn't even know how to posit the question, it just kind of came out that way. And I wish I could have asked more and more economists this, because the crux of it is what's going on. And so the thing is, that the clip with Jared Bernstein, who is the chief economic advisor of President Joe Biden right now, and has been with him for a long time, is important because I don't think it's an aberration. Like his reaction, I think, was actually fairly emblematic and fairly insightful of the mainstream field of what's told in the textbooks, right? So he hadn't encountered that in the textbooks. And what's important is that he hadn't asked himself, and he hadn't been asked that question before. Like you could see that, right? Like you could see that in the interview. I could see that when I asked the question, like he hadn't grappled with that. It's just never been brought up, and it seems so core, so important, that we should ask those kind of simple, almost childlike fundamental questions. But it's almost shunned in economics, I think, to ask those kind of basic questions, right? So I think, for students and for others, don't be afraid to ask basic questions, especially when you have some, your intuition is guiding you somewhere else. Don't be afraid to ask, and you'll get some interesting answers, maybe.